All right, so there it is, that dreaded check engine light staring you right in the face. You plug in your scanner and it spits out this code P0172. I know it sounds technical, maybe a little intimidating, but trust me, it's not. We're going to break down exactly what this means for your Toyota, and we're going to do it together, step by step. Let's get into it.
So first things first, what does this P0172 code actually mean? Well, to put it simply, your car's brain, the computer, is saying there's a problem with the air and fuel mix. Specifically, on one side of your engine, what they call bank 1, it's getting way too much gas and not enough air. Now the computer's been trying to fix it, but it's hit its limit. It can't adjust anymore, so it turns on the light and gives you this code as a cry for help.
You know, a good way to think about it is like an engine's diet. To run perfectly, your engine needs this ideal, perfect mixture of air and fuel. A rich mixture, which is what P0172 is telling us, means that diet is way too heavy on the fuel. It's getting overfed. The opposite of that would be a lean mixture where there's too much air and not enough fuel. Our job right now is to figure out why your engine's diet is so out of whack.
And that, right there, is the million-dollar question. We know what the problem is, too much fuel. But why is it happening? Is it a bad sensor giving bad info? Is it a clogged part? This is where we put on our detective hats and start looking for clues.
And don't worry, we're not just going to guess. We've got a clear roadmap to solve this thing. We're going to start with the air intake system, then we'll look into faulty sensors. After that, we'll investigate the fuel delivery system, then we'll touch on a few less common culprits, and we'll wrap it all up with a solid action plan for you.
All right, first stop, the air intake system. You might be asking, why are we starting here? It's simple, because these are usually the easiest and, frankly, the cheapest things for you to check and potentially fix yourself.
When it comes to the air system, there are two primary suspects. First, and this is the simplest one, a clogged engine air filter. I mean, think about it. If your engine can't breathe, it can't get enough air, and boom, you've got a rich mixture. The second, and a very, very common cause, is a dirty or faulty mass airflow sensor, or a MAF sensor for short.
Now, I really want to double-click on this one. A dirty MAF sensor is, hands down, one of the most frequent reasons for a P0172 code. This tiny sensor has a huge job. It tells the computer exactly how much air is coming into the engine. If that thing is dirty, it's like trying to read a book with muddy glasses. It's going to give the computer bad information, and the computer's going to respond by dumping in way too much fuel.
And hey, here's a quick test you can do yourself with just a basic scanner. Plug it in, turn your key to the on position, but don't start the engine. Go into the Live Data menu and find the MAF sensor reading. Now with the engine off, no air should be flowing, right? So that reading should be at or very, very close to 0. If you see a number that's high, well, you've probably just found your problem.
Okay, so let's say your air filter is clean and that MAF sensor test came back looking good. What's next on our list? Well, we move on to the other sensors. This is when the engine's computer is getting bad information from its other electronic eyes and ears.
Now, there are a few sensors that could be lying to the computer here, but the top of our suspect list are the upstream oxygen sensor on bank 1, that's the one before the catalytic converter, and the engine coolant temperature sensor. The map and throttle position sensors can sometimes play a part too, but let's focus on those first two.
Yeah, you really want to zero in on that bank 1 upstream O2 sensor. Why that one specifically? Because its job is to measure the oxygen in the exhaust before it gets cleaned up by the catalytic converter. If that sensor fails, it might get stuck reading lean, telling the computer there's too much air. So what does the computer do? It adds more fuel to compensate. And suddenly you've got the rich condition we're trying to solve.
Another really common troublemaker is the ECT sensor. Its job is pretty simple. It just tells the computer how hot or cold the engine is. Now, when an engine's cold, it needs more fuel to run right. But if this sensor fails and is stuck telling the computer the engine is always cold, even when it's fully warmed up, the computer's just going to keep dumping in that extra fuel, thinking it's helping out.
Okay, so we've checked the air coming in, and we've checked the sensors that measure everything. Now it's time to look at the other side of the equation, the fuel itself. Let's dig into the fuel delivery system. So what can go wrong here? Well, a few things. You could have a fuel injector that's leaking, or maybe it's just stuck open, basically a tiny dripping faucet constantly adding gas. Or it could be a bad fuel pressure regulator that's jacking up the pressure way too high. And you could even have a pinched or clogged fuel return line that's trapping all that pressure in the system. The end result for all of these is the same. Too much fuel gets sprayed in. So what if you've gone through all that? You've checked the air system, the sensors, the fuel pressure, and you're still looking at that check engine light? Well, it's time to round up the unusual suspects. These are less common for sure, but they can still be the cause.
You definitely don't want to overlook these. A stuck-open evap purge valve can let fuel vapors sneak into the engine. Even something like your engine oil getting contaminated with gas, which can happen if you do a lot of really short trips, can throw things off. In rarer situations, it could be a plugged exhaust or catalytic converter, or, and this is very, very rare, a problem with the engine computer itself.
Okay, I know that was a ton of information. So let's pull it all back together and build your action plan. This is your clear, logical path to figuring this out and getting that light turned off.
Think of this as your diagnostic funnel. You start at the wide end with the easy and most common stuff, and you work your way down. So step 1, check that air system. Look at the air filter, clean or test that MAF sensor. If that's all good, move to step 2. Investigate those key sensors, especially the O2 and ECT sensors. Still no luck? Okay, on to step 3. Inspect the fuel system for high pressure or any leaks. Only after you've worked through all of that should you start thinking about those less common causes.
See? By following this process, you're not just guessing and throwing parts at the problem. You're being methodical. You're being a detective. So you've got the map, and you know all the potential suspects. The only question left is, which clue are you going to investigate first?